Hello and a warm welcome to Federal's special broadcast just ahead of the elections, where the Federal, its sister concern, Puthiyathalaimurai and Apt Research Group have conducted a pre-poll survey. Now, there is a methodology on the basis of which this pre-poll has been conducted. Now, just to give you a little insight, the pre-poll survey was conducted in 1,314 locations, selected at random from 82 Lok Sabha constituencies, which are spread across 19 states of the country. Now, I just want to play out a little video for you, which will give you an idea as to what the methodology, what kind of a methodology was adopted for this pre-poll survey. Take a look. A short reel gave you an idea as to what the methodology, what kind of methodology was adopted. But just ahead of every election, every voter has an aspiration, and the voter hopes that all those aspirations will be met by the government, by the new government which is formed. Now, if you go back to 2004, when Manmohan Singh was the prime minister, he came back to power on the basis of his inclusive approach, then the schemes like MNREGA. Then you clock further and you come to 2014, we had the image of a strong prime minister and bringing in hope. And this was pitted against a weak prime minister, which was seen in Manmohan Singh. And that helped BJP to come back to power for the second term. Now, when BJP is seeking a third term, so what is the premise? What is the voter looking at? So this is exactly, there are some set of findings which this pre-poll survey has banked on. And from Monday to Friday, every day stay hooked on to this pre-poll survey, because every day we will be bringing before you a very interesting set of findings. So let's delve deep into the findings which we are putting out for today. But before that, I would like to introduce you to my guests. We have our psephologist, Raghuram T, who's the president of the Apt Research Group. Thank you so much, Mr. Raghuram. We have S. Srinivasan, who's the editor-in-chief of Puthiyathalaimurai and the Federal. Thank you, sir, so much for joining. We have Anshul Trivedi, who's the Congress spokesperson. Thank you so much, Anshul. We have Rachana Reddy, who's the BJP spokesperson. And we have our senior editor, Puneet Nicholas Yadav, also joining us. Thank you so much, Puneet. So let's look at the first set of findings. And there are a set of questions which have been asked, of the voters. And the first question we will begin with, and if I can ask my colleague to play out that first question. Now, that first question talks about which among the following describes best the change in your economic status in the past 5 years? So that's the first question. And in response to the above question, so you have the findings from north to south to east, west, and the national. So if you look at the results very carefully, 43% 48% of the respondents said that it has remained the same. 34.82% said that they have seen a change for the better, and only 17.69% said that it has deteriorated. So let's begin the discussion now, and I'll start with Raghuram T. That we should start with this economic status first, because you were the one who conducted the research, and what really forced you to lead the findings with this question?
Generally, unemployment and price rise have traditionally been sensitive issues in Indian elections, with a bearing on the voting intention of the people. And that's why we thought we should ask them about these things first. And it also makes the voter feel involved, because we are asking something that is very personal to him, something that he's experiencing on a day-to-day basis as far as the price rise is concerned, if at all he feels there is a price rise.
Yeah. Right. All right. So let me go to Rachana Reddy now, and I'll come to others a little later. Rachana Reddy, the biggest failure of the Modi government is actually on the economic front. Many people say that when Modi government cannot answer on price rise and inflation, so it starts diverting, to other issues. That is what the allegations come against BJP. Now, if you look at this survey and talk about the economic status as what the first question talks about, what would you really say if people are saying 43.78% of the respondents are saying that the economic status has remained the same? So, and all the tall claims made by BJP that, look, we've weaned out so many crores of people from the poverty, but if the economic status has remained the same, what does it really show about the BJP government's policy?
I would say that the fact that the country itself has moved from the 11th place to the 5th place itself speaks a lot. And the fact that, see, this is a very small amount, or rather a small chunk of study that is going on. However, even in that, the fact remains that the economic status of most of the people, and I'm sure they have gone through a cross section of the economic statuses of different voters, has remained the same. And it is a very few number that say it has deteriorated. But the fact remains that where can the opposition show that the economic status has in fact deteriorated, or the inflation has increased, etc.? Because if you look at inflation per se, yes, the inflation had increased slightly during the Ukraine-Russia war in 2020-21. Yeah, and at the time when India stopped exporting grains, and it still has certain export of grains. So, given the fact that India has taken the foreign policy to continue with the consumption of oil from Russia, and given the fact that it has already, once that inflation has increased, it has already taken the first step of curtailing the export of grain, because we need the grain for ourselves first. Where is the inflation? I mean, it is easy to just go on in a generalized manner that there is inflation. But where is the inflation? The inflation has remained the same, and in fact has reduced compared to any other country in the world. And yes, unemployment, I will say that we ought to do better, and we will do better. But that does not reflect automatically on the entire economic picture, because the economic picture is that India is doing stupendously well, and has surpassed our own expectations.
Okay, now let me get in a response from Anshul Trivedi on this. Status of 43.78% has remained the same. Would you see this as a failure? Would you see this as some kind of a status quo? How would you really see this? And also respond to what Rachana Reddy just said.
If you look at the respondents, around 58% have either said that their economic situation has either remained the same or has deteriorated. So for majority of the population of this country, the Modi government has not been able to deliver. It's crystal clear from your own survey. Now, how does it translate politically is a different question, but I'd like to respond to my friend from the BJP. She was saying, where is the inflation? Well, if you go to the petrol pump and try and get your tank full, you will realize where the inflation is. If you go and see the prices of a LPG cylinder, you'll see where the inflation is. During our regime, during Dr. Manmohan Singh's regime, it used to cost 500 rupees, 400 rupees, and now that same cylinder costs 1,000 rupees. At 70 rupees, the BJP was up in arms when there was, the global crude oil prices were $150 per barrel. We had raised the price to around 70 rupees, 74 rupees, and that was considered to be a steep hike in prices. And the common man was being, cheated and all of that. And today, we have petrol prices in the high 90s and hundreds in most of the states. So, it's very easy if someone wants to look with open eyes and with a dispassionate view of what's going on and not take a partisan view and think from the point of view of the citizen of India. There is backbreaking inflation for the common man, and that is reflected in everyday prices that you see. Now,
I'll come to you later, Rachna. I know you're raising your hand. I'll come to you later. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Anshu.
And
Yes,
essentially, I'd like to bring to your notice that in the public discourse, especially in the media after the corporate media was captured, these issues were invisibilized. So while we are having record high inflation numbers, we are having record high unemployment numbers, we have very little public discourse around it, because the public discourse is monopolized by the big corporates, and they are peddling propaganda to be very fair. And that is why that is hurting our democracy, and that is hurting the public discourse which sustains our democracy. And that is why we see that all these issues, which are the bread and butter issues of the, have been completely invisibilized.
All right.
But the numbers bring it out. Bring it out.
Right. Now, I'll come to you, Rachna, a little later, because we have to deal with the next set of questions also, and time is limited. Srini sir, I'll come to you. That you this bit on the premises, the premise which we have taken, that when BJP is seeking a third term, there is actually no alternative. Of course, the economic status is just one component of this entire pre-poll survey, but will it go to show that since there is no alternative, so Modi government has done well on all the fronts, whether it is economic front or whether it is other fronts? How does one take this particular aspect of the economic status?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question, but Mr. Raghuram would be better placed to give us this thing. When we say economic status, it's basically about the perception of how the person feels when the interview was conducted, and has seen a change for better is what about 33% have responded all across, except West, which is 39%. And the total average comes out to be 34%. And if you look at the data of that, more or less it has remained the same, is almost a secular, almost all the regions, north, south, east, west, around 44%, and the average is 43.78%. So it seems that there is respondents have, most respondents across the country, wherever the survey has been done, or of a similar view. Now, what I see here is it's slightly different from how an individual perceives as his own economic well-being in the last 5 years as compared to the previous years, and how he perceives, the changes which have been brought around him, which is what the Modi government has been constantly saying, in the form of a new road or a new train being launched, those kinds of things. So, but it is interesting that 43% say that their personal thing hasn't changed, whereas the messaging has largely been in how the country's economic situation has changed. So I think when we go further down to other questions, we'll get more about what is being said. That will give us a better context.
Now, let me come to Puneet now. Puneet, this one aspect of the economic status where we are saying that, about 43.7% of the respondents, they have almost remained the same. Now, does it go to show, according to you, what does it really show that, these emotive issues have found a bigger resonance? And according to the survey which has been conducted, as people are saying that because the Ram Temple consecration ceremony also happened around that time. So, do these issues really matter to the people at this point of time?
Uh, well, Neelu, I mean, whether these matter or they don't, uh, depend on situations. There are in an ideal situation, in an ideal political situation, these should matter. But then there will be times when an election is held where you have some other overriding factor which kind of nullifies anything else, anything that's personal to a respondent or to a voter. So you've got, I mean, you've got a situation in this, at least, as a response to this question, where after 5 years of power in the current term, and additionally 5 years before that, and a government with a brute majority, and one that claims that it has, ushered in unprecedented development in every sphere, including the economy. But you have roughly, if you take the respondents who've said that their condition has remained the same in the last 5 years, and add to that the roughly 18% who've said that their condition has deteriorated, you get a figure of over 60%. And that's a huge chunk of at least the respondents. Whether the sample size is big enough or not is a different matter. But then 60% saying that after 5 years of government, of the current government, plus I'm assuming that they would have also factored in what the situation was prior to that, of a strong government, so-called strong government that has ushered in a lot of development, which constantly, indulges in chest thumping with regard to how the economy has flourished under its regime. If 60% or over 60% of your respondents are saying that their condition has either not improved or it has worse, it has deteriorated, then it's not a very good look on the government. Whether this impacts the voting pattern would not, in my view, it would not be something that you can look at in isolation. There will be a combination of factors always that determine a voter's choice for a government. It will not be purely based on their economic status.
I want to ask another question of Raghuram, that do you think that the people really are going to vote on this particular aspect, given the fact that there's a huge chunk of people whose economic status has remained the same, and roughly about 18% of the people whose condition has deteriorated? So how much of this factor is really going to impact the voting pattern in the coming elections, according to you?
My point of view is this: we have come out after 3 years, the post-COVID crisis, and nearly 45% of the respondents saying that their economic status has remained the same. It's a very significant positive aspect. That is my view as a common man. And in case you want to add this figure to any and club it with any of the other two options, one of which is positive and the other one is negative, even for a discussion's sake, we can take only half of it. We can't whole figure to either of them and assume that this is what is the end result. No, I don't. In my view, everyone is entitled to their view. In my view, if you feel it has not remained the same, means it's negative, take half of it. because other half must have felt, because when you ask somebody about their economic status, some people want to be modest. They would say, yeah, it's remained the same.
No, but Mr. Raghuram, if you look at this particular percentage where only 34.82% are saying that they have seen a change for the better. So that's a very small chunk. That's exactly what the point is, that a larger section of the people feel that the economic status has not changed. So the government hasn't made a great change for the good.
No, I wouldn't say that, because there is only a 10 percentage point difference between those who have said our status has improved and those who have said it has remained the same. If I were a BJP man, I would add up that 45 and 34 and say we are doing very well. No, if I were even if I were a congressman, I would only add half of it. I
Hmm.
wouldn't add the whole figure. No, that's how I think I would read data. I'm a common citizen, unbiased common citizen, so I don't speak for anybody. But I would say 45% of the respondents saying just 2 years of normal activity post COVID, they're saying 45% our economic status is the same. Then I think as a citizen, I feel happy about it. But the most happiest aspect for me in this data is only 18% saying our economic status has declined. For example, if 34% have said our economic status has declined, then I know which way the trend is, but not when it is 18. So this is my view of the data that we have collected. We have collected about 36,000 samples from all parts of the country. A
Right.
lot of effort has gone into getting views in an unbiased manner, and I feel it reflects the ground reality at this point in time.
All right. Rachana Reddy was also raising her hand earlier. I'll come to you and then we'll go on to the next set of questions. Yes, Rachana, you wanted to make a point at that time?
I was actually trying to make the point Mr. Raghuram has made. I'll just add a few aspects to it. The 45% saying that it has not changed itself means is indicative of the fact that the 45% are unhappy or happy. They have not made that clear. So if they say that it has not changed, why should you? I mean, a Congress person, my friend would assume that the entire 45% is unhappy with their own with their current economic status. I, as a BJP person, will say the entire 45% is content, satisfied where we are, and if we go higher or further, we will be happy. So saying that 45% has not changed and that is in the negative is exactly what the opposition is trying to do. The fact remains that COVID, something that comes once in a century, I mean, a disaster or a natural calamity that comes once in a century, no other government, and certainly not the Congress government, could have handled it as well as we did, and with such low mortality rate.
All right.
So,
but quick point.
I just want to complete. And given the fact of the increase or rather the inflation, where you're talking about a time, 2023, 24 and 2010, when Manmohan Singh, being an economic stalwart, I mean, that's his entire expertise, an economic stalwart, could not, allow me to finish, could not fight the inflation of that time. The wages were exceptionally low and the unemployment was exceptionally high. So it was a triumvirate of shock factors that literally crippled the country and the people. Now, if you look at the inflation is comparatively less because the wages have increased. It is the unemployment that has to, or rather the employment that has to catch up with the increase in wages. That is where we are.
All right. Anshul, but the question which I really want to ask you is that, there are both ways of looking at it. There's a happy story as well as a sad story, where the opposition is saying that BJP hasn't done well. And according to BJP, they've done very well despite such a horrible pandemic which everyone saw. But the question which the opposition needs to be asked is that what is the alternative plan you could have given and you've not been able to give to the people when it comes to the economic status? I'm talking purely about this particular component of the pre-poll.
Yeah, so first, a quick rejoinder to my friend from the BJP. After the 2009 financial crisis,
Yes, go ahead, go ahead. Anshu? I think his frame is frozen. He's there. Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
The fact that India could, dexterously navigate its way out of the global financial crisis, a lot of credit should be given to the Congress party, Dr. Manmohan Singh, which they don't. And at that time, the crude prices were $150. So it was not as if everything was hunky-dory internationally and we were raising prices. And if you go and talk to international economists, not Indian economists, not partisan economists of either persuasion, if you look at someone who is an academic economist and you go and ask them, how did India do while navigating the global financial crisis, they'll say that we did pretty well as compared to other countries. Now, coming back to your point of giving an alternative, you see, Niluji, 80 crore people are being given free rations in this country right now. Who are these people? Are they content with their life? Are they content at getting 80 crore people? Are they content with getting free rations, being dependent on government doles? That is the issue that I want to bring up. Now, these 80 crore people have been invisibilized in our media discourse. And it is to take our attention away from these desperately poor people that polarization of both social and communal kinds is undertaken by the ruling regime, and it is propagated by the media 24/7. The other thing that I want to say is that Mr. Narendra Modi was saying that he was against the Rebdi culture, but in Madhya Pradesh, they said that they'll give Ladli Behnas 3,000 rupees as a pension, and after winning their votes, they have backtracked on their promise. On the part of the Congress, we have come up with the model of 5 guarantees, which was met with popular approval in Himachal Pradesh. It was met with popular approval in Karnataka, in Telangana, and as a result, we see that in Madhya Pradesh, the BJP copied our agenda of economic welfare. So we have a model in place, and we would invite the government and its supporters to get into a dialogue on competing economic models. But they'll run away because they can't be held to their own promises of creating 2 crore jobs every year, giving 15 lakhs to every person, bringing back Kala Dhan. All of those were not promises that I made. It was Mr. Modi who made that, punishing the corrupt. Now, from punishing the corrupt, it is inducting the corrupt.
Come to you because now we have to go to the next set of questions.
Telangana is a story that Anshul will have to come here and see. I mean, it's 2 months into the government and they are ready to throw stones at the government because they have given absolutely impractical, unreasonable guarantees. Complete ravely when there's
I think we can have a debate.
There's no budget for the same. So please come to Telangana, Anshul, and see what your Congress government has done.
All right. We'll come to Telangana. You've already given us an invite, but we'll have to move on because time is limited and we have to go to the next set of questions. The next question, I would ask my colleague Nisha to just play out the next set of questions. And that is, what are the top 3 schemes of the Modi government? And when asked to name the top 3 initiatives of the government led by PM Modi, the voters chose. Now, look at this particular graphics, which now we will be playing out for you, which again is from North, South, East, West, and then the national figure. Now, UPI, the digital payment gateway, 57.55%. That is what the people are saying. 57.55% people say that UPI, the digital payment scheme, is the best. Then supply, followed by supply of free rations to over 80 crore people. That is held by 57.38%. That is scheme number 2. Scheme number 3, that is providing safe drinking water through Jal Jeevan Mission, 38.82%. Financial assistance to farmers through direct benefit transfer, that is 34.02%. Then significantly enhancing India's stature internationally, that is 31.34%. Significantly improving the quality standards of our national highways, 37.80%. And others' opinion, that is 5.43%. So this basically talks about the top 3 initiatives of the Modi government. Now, let me come to Raghuram. Raghuram, if I were to ask you that UPI, of course, has been rated as the #1 scheme. So On the basis of UPI and the way people have been making digital payments, are we in a position to say that this, of course, is the most winning factor for the Modi government, according to your survey?
Our objective is to read the pulse of the electorate and present the findings, come up with a conclusion. Now, we have listed certain schemes of the government here, and we got public opinion on them. One point I would like to, the top performers, as you already said, are UPI and supply of free rations to the poor. BJP has all along been saying that we are not for appeasement politics, we are for development. That is what has been Prime Minister Modi's pitch.
Hmm.
My personal opinion is uh, uh, they want to implement their vision of driving a development driven agenda, but at the same time, they have to be in power to implement that agenda. So I feel they do a lot of data crunching. So hidden in this responses are like schemes like the UPA, then providing safe drinking water and enhancement of our national highway quality are all development issues. Dovetailed with that is the free rations to 80 crore people and the direct benefit transfer to farmers. So what the government has done is that while keeping its focus, in my view, on the development agenda, in order to keep it closer to the electorate, I think they have this 80 crore free rations to the public and the direct benefit transfer to the farmers. But apart from politics, I feel as a nation we should be happy that our government is providing free rations to people who need them the most. And with 80 crores of families touched by this, I think they are happy that their economic status has remained the same.
Right.
But for the scheme, it wouldn't have been the same. And farmers are one segment where not all governments want to touch that. They are having a direct benefit transfer to the farmers, and 34% have said they are happy about it. So here we have a pre-election scenario where the government has dovetailed in development politics with a bit of support that crucial segments of our society need, and that I would say is the highlight of the outcome of is the outcome of the findings for this question.
Right. So just let me inform the viewers once again that this pre-poll survey was conducted during December 2023 and January 2024 across 19 states. But talking about the second finding, Anshul, I want to come to you. It looks like a strong cocktail of appeasement and development, which Modi government apparently has been offering to the people. Opposition looks at it negatively and says that, look, this is something negative about the Modi government because you've put 80 crore of people who are at your mercy and are providing free rations. But then that's the scheme which is actually working. If you look at the breakup of the various schemes, so you have a proper breakup of a development agenda, you have an appeasement agenda as well. Anshul.
No, I'd like to correct and put these things in perspective. It's a very important question. First of all, this dichotomy of appeasement and development is false and completely out of order. Ensuring that capabilities of our poor people, is enhanced is also part of development. And redistribution of resources is also a part of development. So we should not say that that is appeasement and building highways is development. That is a very myopic view of development. It's essentially a pro-rich conception of development. Secondly, yes, I'm very happy and I welcome that the poor people in India are getting free rations, and it was under the leadership of Mrs. Sonia Gandhi that we passed the National Food Security Act after a lot of opposition from the BJP, under which these rations are being granted to the poor people of India. So we are all for it. But what we want to say is that you have, on the one hand, we had a right-based approach to this. We said that if you're a citizen of India, you are entitled to a certain standard of living. You have this right to food. And we put it under, a rights-based regime. Whereas Mr. Modi is using it as a personal dole that he's giving to his praja, which is a problem. And secondly, his politics is invisibilizing those poor people, the common people and their issues from the entire discourse. He himself used to mock opposition governments when we used to give welfare schemes to the people and saying that it was remedy. So we are not mocking his schemes, or we are not criticizing the welfare schemes or the welfare mindset of the Prime Minister. We are bringing to the notice of the people his duplicity and his double standards when it comes to tackling the issues of the poor. He wants their votes. So he wants them to be clients, not citizens. Whereas the UPA, under its rights-based regime, wanted those people to be citizens.
Right.
As a matter of right, they had to have.
Yeah, Anshul, let me get in Rachna Reddy on this.
So I vehemently, just to finish off, I vehemently disagree with this dichotomy of appeasement and development. Putting poor people, putting our working people, putting our farmers at the forefront of the development discourse is essential for the progress of our country. And just because the Prime Minister wants to run away from, the doles that he's giving, because he himself was pandering to the corporate class in 2014 and wanted to, do away with this discourse of welfare, we have created this dichotomy. And that is very wrong and injurious to the health of our democracy in the long run. The Prime Minister Modi is winning on the policies that were brought in by the UPA, which he ridiculed in opposition and is now implementing in toto. That is the duplicity that they want to run away from.
Okay, Rachna Reddy, I want your response on this. That these are the schemes which were started by the UPA government, and this 80 crore rations which you have extended to the 80 crore people, I'm sorry. Is this some kind of a dole given by Prime Minister Narendra Modi? Yes, you'll have to unmute yourself. Rachna, unmute yourself. Yes.
I will just break down the hypocrisy of the Congress party and their frustration, Neelu. I'll just give you an example of Telangana. Telangana, the entire plan of action, the manifesto itself was so unreasonable. I mean, we are bankrupt. Okay, 10 years of PRS has done quite a lot of wonders to our state. That's a different story. We are a bankrupt state, almost close to it. Okay. Congress party, who has been speaking about Narendra Modi ji giving doles, etc. Well, it is the central government that is giving. If they perceive it to be Narendra Modi's doles in their insecurity, it's their insecurity complex. In Telangana, let me tell you, they have in competition with BRS, they have reduced the price of cylinders from 450 to 400, and BRS says from 500 to 400. Then the farmers direct benefit scheme, in addition to what the central government is doing, and to copy what the central government is doing, the BRS had initiated the farmers direct benefit scheme in addition as 10,000 rupees per year. Congress, without and knowing full well the economic status of the state, increases it to 15,000 per year. Do you think it has met its responsibility or its guarantee? Because it's one of its guarantees, and it came to power on that guarantees, the bandwagon. Do you think it has introduced or is implementing? No, it is absolutely shirking it because it has outrightly said it does not have the funds to meet it, and it won't meet it. So when you're talking about appeasement, it is the UPA that has indulged absolutely blind appeasement, but not Narendra Modi's government, and definitely not the central government. And if you see, I mean, national highways, infrastructure projects taking care of the economy during COVID, UPI, etc. Now we have come to a situation where hiding black money, only the Congress can come up with different ways of hiding black money. But it is coming to a situation where more and more money is becoming part of the economy of the country. I mean, it is becoming more and more difficult to hide it. Okay, so the UPI and everything else, and the direct benefit scheme, etc. Here is a situation where the Congress is hypocrisy is stating that Narendra Modi ji is giving out doles. Well, Sonia Gandhi has never indulged in any doles, is what my friend is stating. But
No, I did not say that. Don't misquote me.
Sonia Gandhi herself has no place in any kind of political discourse in India as we speak. But in spite of that, I will refer to it as the UPA government.
I want to bring in Puneet here. 1 second.
Has started it and is continuing. So when you say, 1 minute, Neelu, when you say appeasement and development cannot go together, well, it is proven. The people of India have spoken untruth, and the Congress government is an absolute abysmal failure. And if the people of India are brought to compare the Congress government in the previous 10 years and Narendra Modi's government in this 10 years, doodh ka doodh and pani ka pani.
I want to get in Puneet. Let me get in Puneet on this. Puneet, development and appeasement going together, and as what the second finding we are talking about. How do you see this issue basically panning out politically between Congress and between BJP and the opposition?
Well, I think we just got a glimpse of it, just before I spoke. So how it's going to pan out. But you see, I mean, the responses here are rather interesting because, I mean, one, of course, I have a little difficulty in understanding how increasing the country's stature abroad is a government scheme or a government initiative, or I mean, even with regard to UPI, I wouldn't exactly call UPI a government scheme. Of course, a government initiative, definitely. But this whole argument of the BJP or the current government not indulging in any kind of, I mean, this kind of contemptuous denial that no, it's only the others who indulge in appeasement and populism, and we never do it, and we don't go there. It's actually laughable. You've had election campaigns where the Prime Minister himself has made statements like "Modi ka namak khaya hai." You've had the Prime Minister and a whole litany of BJP leaders creating a new sort of vote bank in our electoral lexicon called Labharthi. Okay. Then you've got you're accusing the Congress of saying, oh, bankrupt state and 500 rupees a cylinder. Madhya Pradesh, which happens to be my home state, is has been under a BJP rule for a long time, barring a very brief period when there was a Congress government which was toppled by the BJP. There have been repeated warnings by lending agencies, by banks, of the increasing debt burden on Madhya Pradesh. And what did we see in this election in Madhya Pradesh? You're accusing the Congress of 500 rupees for a cylinder. In Madhya Pradesh and in Rajasthan, they said we'll give it for 450 because the Congress is giving it for 500. For all these years, when the LPG cylinder rates kept going up, they kept denying that the rising prices of LPG cylinders were causing a huge hole in the pockets of the households, or burning a big hole in the household budgets. And suddenly, in the elections, from after fleecing voters at 1,000 rupees a cylinder, 1,100 rupees a cylinder, 1,200 rupees a cylinder, you announced that you're going to give it for 450. So I think this whole argument between the two parties or between the two camps, whether it's the UPA or the NDA or the BJP or the Congress, of saying we do appeasement and, you do appeasement and we don't do it, or them saying that you're also doing appeasement and we don't do it and we are rights-based and you're not rights-based. I mean, it's a rather silly argument. It doesn't serve any purpose. It doesn't help anybody, and it's at the root of it is for the lack of a better description, it's outright cheating the voter. Okay. Now, I mean, even with food grains, of course, it's commendable that you're able to sustain a free ration scheme for 80 crore people. But then you also need to compare it with the claims that the government makes in terms of how many people it's brought out of poverty line. Now, of course, with data, one can never trust the current regime because their data very often doesn't add up. But then when you say that we've brought out so many people from poverty, we've given so many jobs, unemployment is not an issue, inflation is not an issue, and you're still, after 10 years of so-called or so-claimed massive, unprecedented development and all of that, if you still have to give 80 crore people free rations and then claim from the rooftops that we're doing this, and I would like to recall several speeches, of course, from members of parliament of the BJP in both the houses, but particularly Mr. Nishikant Dubey and former Minister of State for Finance, Mr. Jayant Sinha, who both have repeatedly mentioned that the people of the country need to thank the Prime Minister because the Prime Minister is putting food on their table. I think there can't be a greater insult to the people of the country and to another block of people who the government and the BJP repeatedly calls the Andatas, the farmers.
Right.
It's the farmers who are putting that food on the table, not the Prime Minister. It's his job to see that the people in this country, if he's Prime Minister, are well fed and are not starving. And there is no denying that the right to food and National Food Security Act was brought under the UPA government. They can deny it all they want, but that's a reality.
Absolutely. Now let me come to Srini sir. Srini sir, to call UPI a great achievement, then to call free rations to 80 crore people a great achievement, and of course that point struck me when Puneet said that the last bit of this point, that enhancing India's stature internationally is also one of the top schemes by the government. This is slightly, I mean, what finds it difficult to understand. How would you look at this particular aspect of the findings, sir?
Look, the way I see it is, it's undeniable that digital payment has facilitated, eased everybody's day-to-day dealing. It has given a tremendous benefit to an ordinary person. Even you can now buy a street vendor can sell even half a dozen bananas or even 2 bananas, and you can use UPI to transact that. So I think it's basically convenience, and Indians have very quickly adopted to that convenience. Therefore, I'm not at all surprised that 58% people nearly saying that that's the initiative of the government, which we really appreciate. The fact is that it's a Congress government which has failed to instead of opposing it, I think they should also realize the fact that it is them who actually laid the foundation stone for such a scheme. And I think it's Modi and his government which has been smart enough to take that initiative and stretch it to and take it to people and kind of win accolades. That's the way I look at it, because it's their initiative they started, but these guys have actually implemented it, which reaches a common person. That's the way I would look at it. The second thing is, I think we should not forget that COVID really affected India badly. Ours is the third country in the world which was worst affected by the people. 500,000 people died because of that. So the distress, economic distress was really severe. It cost to many people over 2.5 2 years when they couldn't step out to do any work. Now, on the top of it, when you come out of that, that's the time when the government, introduced this scheme. But look at numbers: 80 crore people. I mean, out of a population of nearly 120, 130 crores, whichever way you take it, 80 crore, it's a large number. It's not just BPL, it's also people, if you look at the criteria, those who are given is those who actually have filed income tax or even have a two-wheeler or a four-wheeler. So it means a very wide swath of people. Now, I would say that this government, in a way, modifies itself, though it says something else. It may keep saying, expressing itself against populism. It may be, saying things, but it is doing excellent packaging by continuing with populism. Some of the initiative taken by the earlier 10 years of UPA, and then doing in your face kind of development work, which is like building roads, building railroads, new railway lines, roads, bridges, these kind of things, and then mixing with that welfareism. I think that's, it's not one issue which helps any government win an election. This is multiple issues, and this is how they have packaged it.
Right.
And the response should come from the Congress, instead of constantly criticizing. I think they should say that some of these schemes, the way they have done, and they have been taken forward by this government, and they have done it to their advantage. So, but of course, what is happening? All this gets lost out in the conversation because of heavy polarized political environment, and it ends up basically being a tutu meme. So I'm not at all surprised by these figures, but the fact is that 80 crore people are still given food grains. Says many things. That how the trouble still continues.
Right.
That's the way I look at it.
All right. So now let's go on to the next question. And of course, it looks like BJP has managed to keep a good mix of populism, welfareism, a good bit on push on the development aspect as well. This is what exactly this particular finding shows. But now let's go to the next set of question, and that is question number 3. We are talking about, are you a beneficiary of any of the schemes implemented by the central government? I would ask my colleague to play out that question so that the readers can see it through the graphics. So this is the third question put out for you. We are doing this pre-poll survey, which has been done by Federal, Puthiyathalaimurai, and Apt Research Group. This is the third set of finding we are putting out for you. Are you a beneficiary of any of the central schemes? Now, look at the findings. 32.94% of the respondents nationwide said yes. So they have been a beneficiary of the schemes implemented by the central government. So 32.94% respondents nationwide have said yes. Then the maximum number of beneficiaries of the central government schemes are in the East. That is 35.71%. So which means that the people in the eastern part of the country have got the maximum number of benefits. And 63.09% of the respondents say that they are not a beneficiary. Okay, so let's go straight into the discussion. Raghuram, I'll come to you first. Now, what does this aspect really mean for a voter, if I may ask you? That the voters have been a beneficiary or not of the central schemes, and eastern part of the country, which says that 35.71% of the people there have benefited from the schemes. So what does it mean when it comes to voting pattern and also the mindset of the voter?
We just wanted to know the second question is everyone's opinion on the government schemes. Whether he was a beneficiary or not a beneficiary, had a view on it, and we captured it in the second question. The third question was a more direct question, asking them how many of you are a beneficiary of the government scheme. Nearly 33% have said they are beneficiaries of the schemes rolled out by the government, both listed above and even beyond them. So being a beneficiary doesn't mean that he's going to vote for the party in power, but there's some amount of acknowledgement that they're beneficiary, that they are a beneficiary. Maybe it will have a marginal impact on their voting intention. That's all I can see.
Let me come to Rachna. Rachna, I want to come to you on that bit. The third point, that 63.09% of the respondents said that they are not a beneficiary. Now, what does that mean? That there is some problem with the way BJP has reached out to the people, or has not been able to reach out to the people? How would you really look at this aspect? 63.09% of the respondents saying that they are not a beneficiary of the central government schemes.
I will look at it the glass more than half full, Neelu, because throughout we have been looking at it glass more than half empty. I will look at it that 63 odd or 64% of the people did not need the said scheme or benefit, or rather were not in the same frame or in the same requirement, or rather their requirements were not such that they would need the said scheme. So I would say that the fact that 63% said that they are not beneficiaries of certain schemes, because for example, a lot of times certain people give up the LPG subsidy, the cylinder subsidy, out of their own free will, although for years they have been coming under the said a scheme or a subsidy, etc. So having 64% saying that they are not direct beneficiaries of any of the central government schemes, I would say is because they are above the requirement of that scheme and they do not require that scheme. I'm not going to look at it as in, it has not reached the people, because very obviously you tied this question with the previous question, where more than 80 crore people are, or rather families, etc., are being provided with free ration. So I will say that the reach has been optimal and healthy, but the requirement of people, or rather the people, statistically, the people who require such schemes has gone down.
In this particular aspect, Rachna, you are not including the bit that the lacuna, in the manner in which you have reached out to the people. There could be some.
Where is the lacuna? Where is the lacuna? That is what I'm trying to say. I am saying there is no lacuna in the manner in which we have reached out to people, and I'm saying that the people do not fit into that scheme because they are above, or rather the economic status and the requirement is above that.
Okay. Now, Anshul, if you may respond to this particular bit, that 63.09% of the respondents say that they are not a beneficiary of any of the central government schemes.
I don't know. I'm not very good at maths, but if 80 crore people are getting free rations, what is 80 crore of 130 crores? Must be around 30, 40%, 50%. Then add to that those which are getting the Kisan Samman Nidhi of 2,000 rupees every quarter, and then a few more that I can tell you about gas subsidies and all of that. So the framing of the questions is a bit confusing. The most number of beneficiaries are coming from the east. That makes sense. That is in line with the level of economic prosperity that we witness in our country, and the east unfortunately has lagged behind, and so it is very normal that majority of the people are dependent on the state for economic activity and economic allowances. But once again, I mean, 60 crore people, it's a nice riddle. I would invite you to do a story on it. If 60% of the people are not availing any government benefits, then who are those 80 crore people who are on free rations, which Mr. Modi himself says? I mean, I'm not saying anything on my behalf or my party's behalf. It's the government's claim that they are taking care of those people. And, they are subsidizing certain things. They're giving Kisan Samman Nidhi, they are giving women subsidies and all of that, all of those things. So the math does not add up here. And one interesting way would be to put those 80 crore people on the forefront of our political discourse, and let's have a debate about whether they're happy with their status quo, whether their already marginal existence has improved or has declined. Do they perceive that if they get a cylinder at 1100 rupees, is it just? Or, when they're paying 100 rupees for petrol, because petrol is the form of indirect taxation which everyone has to incur.
Right.
So, we need to understand and put this in context with Mr. Modi's whole idea of being an anti-welfare prime minister. He is the first openly anti-welfare prime minister in Indian history. And that is why in his rhetoric, he has attacked the idea of welfare, the idea of economic rights, the idea of economic security and economic safety nets. In his first parliamentary address, he said that the NREGA was a monument of the failure of the UPA. But the reality which he was trying to hide for political purposes, because he wanted to reduce the discourse to one of Hindu versus Muslim, he was trying to mask the economic disparities and the economic difficulties of these countries. Lo and behold, every budget that you see, every budget after budget, you see that man has been forced to continue the welfare schemes of the UPA. And I agree with Mr. Srinivasan. We are not opposing these schemes. We are just saying that those were initiatives that were taken by the UPA, and they were taken forward with the development of technology. For example, the UPI was not developed by the NDA or by the Modi cabinet. The UPI was non-existent in 2004. But when you come to direct benefit transfer, it was the brainchild of the UPA. It was under Nandan Nilekani and Jairam Ramesh, and we had brought up the direct benefit transfer. And then, as it is, the successive governments take it forward. So what I'm trying to say is that a lot of it is all perception management, where when you have to take votes, you go and you say that the prime minister is feeding you. When you get corona vaccine certificates, there are photos of the prime minister there. But when you go and try and take a death certificate out of the COVID negligence, the prime minister's face does not appear on the death certificate.
Right. Now, let me pick that point out and go to Puneet on this particular thing. That Puneet, does it look like a riddle? And do you see some kind of a gap in between the claims which the Modi government is making about its central government schemes reaching out at the village level, at the grassroots level? But here you have 63.09% of the respondents saying that they are not a beneficiary. So beneficiary could be that the schemes haven't reached them. The other way to look at it, as what Rachna said, that they don't require it. So can you throw some light on this particular aspect?
Well, I mean, this is one question that's stumped me, rather not the question, but the response. And for a combination of reasons. One, of course, is as Anshul was pointing out, and as he said, that, if 80 crores of the country's population is getting free rations, and you have 64% of the respondents saying they are not beneficiaries, then the math doesn't really add up here. But then I do, because, when we go out to cover elections, I would rather look at the other plausible explanation, which is that, very often when you're on the ground and you're talking to people, during elections or in the run-up to elections, and you ask them, a basic question like, "Sarkar ne kya kiya aapke liye? What has the government done for you? Have you got anything from the government?" It is very normal for people to often respond with "kuch nahi kiya." That nothing. We've not got anything from the government. I know. I mean, through my reportage, my years in reporting, I've come across that situation many times, and then you have to literally prod them about. It could be lack of awareness. It could just be lack of interest. It could be n number of reasons, where people will simply say "kuch nahi mila." And then when you ask them, "Okay, did you get this? Did you get that?" then you might find an answer. So, that they have benefited from some scheme or the other. So that's one other possible way of looking at this data set. And then, of course, there's the political way of looking at this data set, which is that the claims of the government and the claims on the ground don't match. So there's clearly some fudging happening somewhere. I mean, that's one other way of looking at it. So I mean, I would say that these answers did stump me a bit.
All right. Now let me come to Srini, sir. Srini, how would you really look at this particular data set where 63.09% of the respondents say that they have not got the benefits of the central government scheme? So does it appear like a riddle? Does it really look like what Puneet said, that some kind of a fudging is really happening as far as the data is concerned? The situation looks slightly confusing.
Well, here, what is the first thing here is only 4% haven't given any definite answer. 96% of the people are given a definite answer, yes or no. And out of that, 63% are saying no, and remaining are saying yes. This is a follow-up question, and it's a direct question, like Mr. Raghuram said, as a follow-up to the previous question. So one would have assumed that the previous question, people who voted so heavily would also similarly vote, and that's why two gentlemen here are calling it as a riddle, and I do see that why they're saying it. Let's look at it. What are the other possibilities? Is it mechanism? Delivery mechanism. Earlier there was a complaint that out of in the Congress regime that out of 1 rupee only 15 paisa reaches. But I think that should have reduced now because of direct benefit transfer. Some of those problems should have gone. So I'm really wondering whether that is a legitimate answer. I doubt. Second is of the people, those who were interviewed, because these probably they were not receiving, though the survey has cut across India, and the data is very secular. It's all almost same from all regions. So that's another possibility, that the interviewed people were not part of that. But the other thing is, probably the other possible issue is, when you ask a frame a question, have you benefited by any of the schemes? Do they look at UPI as a scheme? Do they look at drinking water as a scheme? Or probably they're right. They probably think that, people probably think, and rightly so, that, drinking water is my right. It's not a scheme. So, and that's another possibility. I mean, these are the things which comes to my mind immediately.
Let us move on to the next set of finding. And we won't delve too much of time on this particular thing, because the most interesting set of finding, we have to still talk about it. So the next set of finding, which says, how will you rate your liking of the new Parliament building? I would request my colleague to play out that the question graphics for the viewers, so that they can see what we are wanting to talk about. The new Parliament building was inaugurated recently. So that's another set of finding we have for you. Look at your screen. What do you think of the new Parliament building? Now, that's a question which has been asked to the voters. Again, north, south, east, west, and the national. And that's the view coming there. And I'll just share the findings with you. Voters who gave the best rating for the new Parliament building are from the west zone. And that is 22.93% rated it as excellent. Then the second best rating came from the east, 20.77%. They have rated it as very good. The third best rating also came from the east, that is 25.99%, and it has given them a good. Then nationwide, look at the figure nationwide, which says 21.02% of the voters, they've given the new Parliament building a satisfactory. And only 8.49% of the respondents said that it was not to their liking. So this is the data set for you, and I'll go for quick comments because I don't want to spend too much of time on this, but quick comments coming from all of you. And let me begin with Anshul. Anshul, looking at this particular data set on the liking of the new parliament building, where 22.93% people are saying it's excellent. So what would you really say? Quick point. Yeah.
Good for them. But I just think that apart from the building, the spirit of the parliament should also be upheld, and the Prime Minister should answer some questions. That's what the parliament is there for.
All right, Rachna, I'm going to come to you last. First, let me listen to the others. Okay, Raghuram, I'll come to you. Then I'll come to Srini sir and Puneet. Raghuram, I want to know that what made you really, think about this particular aspect as far as the findings are concerned. Why did you go in for this question? Do you think that the people will really vote on the basis of the new parliament building?
As one who has the responsibility to predict the outcome of the survey, I need to find out ways and means where I get to know what the voter is actually thinking. No? So I need certain parameters to rely on to know which way the voter is thinking. So they're very clever. They don't come up with a direct answer. This is one question where we thought we could get what they are thinking about the government, and it's dissatisfaction is low. That's my biggest takeaway from this response. Dissatisfaction with the new parliament building is low. I thought maybe it will be a little higher, but it is not so.
Okay. Puneet, what is the big takeaway for you from this particular aspect, the liking of the new parliament building?
Well, I think the BJP should be thrilled about it. But barring that, electorally, in terms of voting preference or even the impression that one has of the government, I don't really think much of this response. Because I frankly speaking, you had 5 different state assembly polls after the new parliament, and while we were traveling to these states during the elections, one rarely heard anybody speak about parliament in connection, the new parliament in connection with the elections. Or how they're going to vote. So I really don't know what to what to make of it.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Rachna, I told you I'll come to you last. I want to hear Srini sir. Srini sir, is BJP really going to call this as an achievement, coming up with a new parliament building?
Yeah, the way I look at the data is, excellent, very good, good, all three together. About 55% of people are saying that actually they're giving it a thumbs up. That's what it is. If that all three would be one category as far as I'm concerned. So they're all giving a thumbs up. Look, the question is, I think here is of national pride. That's the way the BJP government has projected it. It's not an ordinary building. It's not just another building. It has been completely projected as a national pride. And there is an old parliament and there is a new parliament. Now, the other question which Congress colleague raised is about whether questions are actually being asked. That's not the point here. I think here the question, that's a valid point, the spirit of the parliament. But here the thing is, a straight question was asked, do you like it? And 55-60%, 50% and above are saying, yeah, we like it. I think the test here is BJP has been successful in sending across its message that the way they have linked it with national pride. That's how I would see it. Their messaging has been that.
All right. So, Rachna, it's very, very clear that it's a monument of national pride. BJP has sent across a message very well. But what about the spirit of the parliament? Everybody is worried about that. Even Anshul raised that point. And my question to you is the same.
My answer is very, very short. It's a matter of national pride. I think we are finally letting go of the shackles of colonialism. And as far as the spirit of it, I think Congress is having a heartburn, and it is because of that heartburn, Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi are both MIA.
All right. So I don't want to go into this point further because now we have the most important set of graphics coming for you. And that is, I would request my colleague now to play out that graphics, and that is the last set of questions for you for today, because we have to continue with this pre-poll survey over the next 4 days again. So every day we will bring out different set of findings for you. There will be different data sets. And just to remind the viewers once again, this is an all India pre-poll survey conducted by Federal, Puthiyathalaimurai, and Apt Research Group. And this is the set of finding we are bringing for you. The question on the screen says, what issues will determine your voting intention in the Lok Sabha election? I'm repeating it once again. What issues will determine your voting intention in the Lok Sabha election? Now look at the issues here. Price rise. You have unemployment, Modi continuing as PM, a stable government, new government at the center, and other issues. Now these are the parameters, and again the data from north to south to east, west, and the national. And I'll just read out the findings. The top 3 factors influencing the voting decision of the respondents are unemployment, that is 31.86%. I'm repeating this figure. Unemployment is one of the topmost factors which will influence the voting decision of the respondents. 31.86% of the people are saying it's unemployment. Second data is related to price rise, 31.74%. Third data is Modi continuing as PM, 26.50%. So the maximum number of respondents who cited unemployment as an influencing factor are in the East. People in the East are saying, of course, for them, unemployment, of course, is a very big issue, 37.74% in the East. Then the maximum number of respondents who named price rise as an influential factor are in the North, that is 33.14%. 15.61% of the respondents say that they will vote for a new government to come to power at the center. Again, I'm repeating this factor. 15.61% of the respondents said that they will vote for a new government to come to power at the center. And the last bit, the maximum number of respondents who say that they will vote for a new government at the center are from the South, 24.58%. And 9.78% of the respondents say that they will vote for a stable government. Now, let me go to Raghuram on this. Raghuram, this bit on which factor will determine your voting intention in the forthcoming Lok Sabha elections. And all issues, all the factors which you have picked up are very, very important. And these are the questions from which BJP apparently has been shying away. Say, for example, price rise, unemployment. So what would you really say to this particular data set, Raghuram?
As the data shows, price rise and unemployment are the top 2 issues that will have a bearing on the voting intention. But to me, the most significant point is 26.50% saying that they'll vote for Mr. Modi continuing as Prime Minister. That means at least 26.5% of the respondents have confirmed through this data that their vote will be for Mr. Modi. So to me, that appears significant. But price rise and unemployment are issues that they are the top 2 issues in the study. I would say it is contained at 31 and 32. That is my takeaway from this.
All right. So, Rachna, to you first. Unemployment and price rise are the topmost issues on which, on the basis of which the people will vote. So that doesn't look like a very happy news for BJP at all.
No, absolutely not. In fact, the fact that it is 31 and 31 or 32 and 33, it's actually very happy because it's much lesser compared to when it was UPA. And the fact that, the best part is the fact that Mr. Modi also is one of the data factors because it has never happened before.
No, Rachna, let's not get into a comparison here. Let's not get into too much of a comparison with the UPA because your government has been there in power for 10 years. So now
yes,
you need to answer as to what you have done on unemployment. Just hear me out. Rachna, hear me out.
30 and 33.
Rachna, hear me out, please. Just allow me to ask you the question. What I'm saying is that let's not get into the comparison. What I'm wanting to ask you is that unemployment and price rise are the topmost issues. Now you need to answer. You have been in power for the last 10 years. Why are you going
answering you? I'm answering you, Neelu. I'm answering you. Unemployment and price rise, yes. Price rise, no. I will not agree to the price rise being what it is because the price rise would have been more, would have been close to 50 or 45 plus. But because of the policies of the Modi government, the price rise has been contained and curtailed, and the inflation too has been contained and curtailed. So 30% we'll take it. Unemployment, yes, it was much higher in the UPA, and 31% we'll take it and we'll do better at it. But the fact I want to concentrate on is that with these two primary positive factors, we have Mr. Modi being a data factor as well. Tell me, in which government in the last 70 years was a prime ministerial candidate, or who's going to be or wanna be or not going to be, went and was a data factor? People did not care. That is what the UPA government and the erstwhile Congress governments were. The fact that Mr. Modi, and only Mr. Modi being the Prime Minister, is a criteria for people to vote for the Bharatiya Janata Party or the ruling government or the government
doesn't
at
disturb
power.
you at all, Rachna? Are you saying that this thing doesn't disturb you at all, that price rise and unemployment are the topmost factors on the basis of which people will vote? You are not scared at all just because you have
because
Modi. Are you
the
saying
fact
that
that price rise and unemployment ought to be the factors that people will vote on or not in any country. And certainly in India, the fact that it is that low, speaks a lot of the fact that what has been accomplished in the last 10 years that has never even tried in the previous 60 years. So absolutely not. That does not scare us. We are at an all-time low. And the fact that Mr. Modi is riding this wave of being a data factor itself, I mean, being a criteria itself, it's a winner. I mean, 44 is what the Congress got last time. I don't believe they'll even cross 30 this time.
All right, Anshul, now that's something disturbing. And Modi remains the popular figure, undoubtedly. And if Modi remains as the most popular figure, there are no issues like unemployment, price rise.
Modi,
That's what I
yeah.
have understood from what Rachna is saying. So you have to answer, basically, there is no other alternative other than Modi. Let's accept that fact.
So three quick points, Niluji. One, that unemployment was highest in the last 55 years in 2019-20. So it's not at an all-time low, or it would have been worse. It was worse during UPA. It's a blatant lie. So please take it back. I'd ask my friend. Secondly,
please don't call me a liar. I mean, come out with your data.
Lie.
Don't call me a liar. Don't call me a liar.
It was the government data which came out that we had the highest level of unemployment in the last 50 years.
Show that data. Bring out that data. Okay. That data, but don't call me a liar.
Okay. Moving on.
Please do.
Moving on. While sticking to the point that unemployment was the highest in the last 50 years in 2020. So the claim that it was higher under UPA is blatantly wrong.
Tell me if you would have done anything better
to complete his point. Rachna, I gave you ample time. I gave you enough time. Just allow him to speak now, please. Yes, Anshul, go ahead.
Secondly, unemployment and price rise both are at 31%, and 15% of the people are saying that they'll vote for a new government, which adds to around more than 70%. So 70% of the people are fair game now for both sides. And I'd like to win their votes for them and go in with a positive agenda. Finally, what is this Modi factor? As if Modi is alone. No. Ek akela sab pe bari. No, Modi is with Jativadi Nitish, corrupt Ajit Pawar, corrupt Himanta Biswa Sharma. All these people that he abused while out of power are behind him. So Modi is not a factor. And apart from them, these people that he himself got corrupt are behind him under his patronage today. Apart from them, there is Mr. Adani, who has increased his worth to 20,000 crores under his regime. So Modi is a regime. And this regime...
wake up and smell the coffee. Even the Supreme Court has said Adani...
Please don't disturb me.
Allow him to complete his point. Please.
Yes.
Allow him to speak. Yes.
इनको बोलने दो. आप बोलो, मैं आखिरी में बोलूंगा. और बोलो आप. क्या बोलना है?
Rachna, you make a quick intervention after that. You don't want to say anything.
I'm done. I mean, Adani, the Supreme Court.
Don't intervene.
I'm a lawyer. I'm a designated
That's my request.
senior counsel, and the Supreme Court has said Adani has done no wrong.
All right.
And the
No
Supreme
more
Court has said,
interventions.
go and deal with
Yeah,
the
yeah,
SEC.
yeah.
All right.
So what
Rachna,
So no one
no more interventions from your side now.
and 2G and
corruption
3G
is well
has
Rachna,
been
known.
no more
abandoned.
interventions.
So
Let
where is the
Anshul speak. Allow him to finish his
Talk
point.
of Puthiyathalai.
Rachna, you made your intervention. Rachna, you made your intervention. Please, I request you to mute yourself now. Yes. Please go ahead, Anshul. Complete your point.
Now, my friend was saying, and my friend was saying that the Supreme Court has given a clean sheet. First of all, that's not correct. Secondly, what I'd like to say is that if you're going by Supreme Court logic, then the 2G, 3G spectrum scams and CWG accused all have been given clean sheets. So why do you keep calling people corrupt then in the opposition? And then is Ajit Pawar still corrupt? Because Mr. Modi himself called him corrupt. I did not. Is Mr. Himanta Biswa Sharma corrupt? Because Modi himself called him corrupt. So this washing machine that is going on, when they say Modi akela nahi hai. Is Nitish Kumar still casteist? Is he still communal? Is he still doing appeasement politics now that he's with Mr. Modi? Mr. Modi is not alone. Mr. Modi is in power on the crutches and compromises that he has made with the erstwhile people that he accused when he was in opposition. And he has done nothing but fill the coffers of the super rich.
No, but Anshul, I have one
Exactly
question.
what you are doing.
Rachna, please. I've requested you, please, and it's a humble request. Don't make an intervention now. I have to go to others also, and we've been like talking for quite some time now. Anshul, my question to you is that will you not accept the fact that there is no alternative, and we have to accept it? I don't want to go into the other
No. See, this is a narrative that is peddled. That is why. I mean, if there was no alternative, why did Mr. Modi backtrack and take Nitish Kumar into his alliance? He himself is insecure. Why did he eat his hat, eat his words, and take in Mr. Ajit Pawar after calling him corrupt? Because he knows that after all projections in Maharashtra are saying that the Mahavikas Aghadi is doing very well. See, the media has a single point agenda of building this cult around Mr. Modi. But who are the people who are operating behind him? It is the same people that he used to accuse of being corrupt in 2014. He has compromised each and every one of them. And now he's saying, "Ek akela sab pe bari." Aap akele nahi ho. Aapke saath Himanta Biswa Sharma, Nitish Kumar, Ajit Pawar sab hain.
All right. Now, I'll come to Puneet now. Puneet, this particular data set, does it bring in some kind of a trouble for the Modi government in the sense that, it'll impact the voting pattern, the way people look at unemployment and price rise? So this doesn't look like a very happy story for the BJP government.
Well, again, it depends on how you want to interpret the data. I mean, to me, there are a couple of interesting points here. One, of course, you've got, and I don't agree with Ms. Reddy saying that there's something great to be read into Modi as PM being an important data point. Every election, we've had every opinion poll. You've had options of prime minister or potential prime ministers being data points. So I don't think I don't agree with that aspect. But what the BJP can definitely take heart from is that 26.5% for Modi as PM. Plus, I would add to this 9.78% for stable government, because I think more or less everybody would agree, even if officially people from the opposition may not want to, that in the current scenario, one expects the BJP to come up with a higher tally in terms of the single largest party, and so a greater ability to give a stable government. And plus, you've had the last 10 years of a very, very stable government. And that's not a comment on the government's policies, but purely on the government's stability. And so, unlike the UPA years, when, or the years preceding that, including Mr. Vajpayee's tenure, or, starting from the 90s, uh, where you had this whole period or decades of instability or the fear of an unstable government, which over the last 10 years, people have seen that you don't have an unstable government. Uh, and so I would add this 9.78% to the 26.50% of Mr. Modi. And so that would give you a fairly all right, 35, 36%, which is more or less
Right.
at the same level as unemployment at 32 or price rise at 32. Or, I mean, and then of course it becomes a worrying statistic if you decide to club the other three together, which is unemployment, price rise, and new government, because then you arrive at a 78, 79%, which should then, of course, worry the government. But having said all this, how you want to interpret this data is, up to journalists or up to the political parties concerned. But the point here, of course, is that both unemployment and price rise, if the BJP wants to brush it under the carpet and say, "Oh, we're very happy with this figure," or that this does not worry us at all, and we thought it could have been worse. I think they do this at their own peril. Uh, and I would like to tell Ms. Reddy that she she does need to, it's all right, being party spokesperson uh, does require you to take a certain line, but then this is your government's own data that in 55 years you have unemployment at a record high. This data came out last month. You have the CMIE data, which again says unemployment is at a record high. You have various other data by different research agencies, which have said, so it's whether it's a CMIE, whether it's the government itself, or if you start through parliamentary answers, you'll see it. It's a different matter that there is a new kind of practice with the new parliament, that a lot of questions uh, are not responded to by the ministers. The current parliament, of which we had the last working day just a couple of days back, would go down in history, at least in the history of these 75 years. I don't know if we have worse days to come, but in terms of parliamentary practice. But this outgoing parliament will go down in history as with the dubious record of striking off the maximum number of questions asked by MPs of a government. So I mean, these data are not coming from thin air. The unemployment is a pressing issue. It's time that the BJP acknowledges it and addresses it. There's no point saying we can do no wrong. No party, no government is above being questioned on these things.
Right.
And no government should be able to say that we can never do anything wrong and we're the best.
Right.
It's a road to disaster.
Absolutely. So let me come to Srini sir now. That Srini sir, this particular data set on unemployment, price rise. Now, more the Modi government tries to run away from the problem, as what the BJP spokesperson, she started trying to compare with the UPA times, but not giving answers on the current issue. Is this the reason? And this data set, does it show that why Modi is trying all tricks under his hat, whether it is the Bharat Ratna, whether it is getting in more allies like Nitish Kumar or others into his fold, because he is not sure, because people still feel that unemployment and price rise is the biggest issue. And this particular point is very clearly spelled out by this survey.
Neelu, I won't link the two. I would feel that my feeling is that though Modi He may be feeling confident that he'll win the election, but he still won't give up. He will, almost all aspects of um states and all aspects of elections, he will like to monitor and then get as many votes as possible. He won't leave any nook and cranny where he won't get any vote. I think that is the kind of machinery you have with this new BJP regime. They doesn't want to leave anything to chance. They want each and every person kind of approaching each, and that's the approach. I think that's why they keep insisting on these issues where Bharat Ratnas are given. They don't want to leave anything to chance.
Right.
They just want to be. That's the nature of the regime. But there are two issues here: unemployment and price rise, which are important. The question here is really is this again a growth, a jobless growth? Because if you see, there has been a razzle dazzle of construction activities going on, uh, shiny new roads, bridges, new trains, and almost on a weekly basis, PM had inaugurated new trains. So the perception which is built, a very visual perception that the government is on the move, a lot of construction activities taking place, a lot of people, and these are all highly labor-intensive tasks. If you ask an economist, he would tell you that look, all these activities require a lot of manpower. But the real question is when you come to unemployment, is it a sustainable one? Because these are, kind of employees who labor, who are employed, and then once the job is over, maybe it's not as if they are staying in the same place and permanently getting 10 to 5 job, or they're going to factory every day. The data here to look at on the other side is the capex spending. If you look at the capex spending in this budget, the highest has been in the transport sector. But the capex, the kind of capex the government has been spending on these kind of sectors. Well, what really it is required is creating more job opportunities in capital intensive companies, which would actually give more permanent jobs to people. I think that's not what it is happening. So that's the reason that probably people are saying that there are a whole lot of people who still feel that unemployment is a major factor, and they would keep that in mind. And that's an important thing. As a percentage of GDP, we are supposed to grow. I mean, add more from the capital goods industry, which should be 25% of the target. But we are earlier we were 15, we just about 17, despite huge concessions given in the previous budgets, by the government. So obviously, this is an area of worry, and the government must work on that. But I think they more believe in showing in your face kind of activities. The second is price rise. I mean, the fact that we have been seeing so many news stories in the last few years about the tomato price. Earlier it was only onion, but you suddenly hear prices about tomato, prices about even a very humble, coriander or dhania, or things like that. These kind of things, you can wish it away saying that, okay, these are seasonal. But look at oil prices, edible oil. Look at the way the edible oil prices, even look at the way, the rice, which is available in the free market, the food grains, the pulses. So, these are issues the government has been actually allowing on OGL, open general license, and then trying to, uh, manage it by shutting some time down. So these kind of things have been going on. So probably price rise, the inflation figures, which basically depends on a certain set of parameter, a basket of items. And the inflation, as far as India is concerned, if you look at those weekly figures, it's under control. But there is something else which people seem to be complaining. So I think these are two important issues. But third, I would kind of agree with Raghuram. If 26, 27% people think that Modi is a factor, and that is why that's what will determine that will influence their voting decision, then it is significant. So, am I to assume in a way that, okay, these are issues, I am troubled, I have no job, and there is a price squeeze, but I still feel that I need to, at least more than 1/4 of people think that we'll still consider Modi as the he is the one who is influencing my voting decision. And that's a factor which we have to seriously think about.
Absolutely. And price rise and unemployment remain the biggest challenges of the Modi government. But yes, as what Srini sir just pointed out, and that is why perhaps the reason being that Modi is going on saying it in rallies after rallies, public meetings after public meetings, that this is Modi ki guarantee. But just to remind the viewers that you're watching our program on the All India Pre-Poll Survey, which has been conducted by the Federal, Puthiyathalaimurai channel, which is our sister concern, and Apt Research Group. Stay tuned to this particular pre-poll survey over the next 4 days, where we will be bringing in more interesting set of data for you, and you will be hooked on, and we expect your feedback over this pre-poll survey. So I'll see you tomorrow again. Thanks all of you. Rachna Reddy, Anshul Trivedi, Srini sir, Puneet, and Abhiram. Thank you so much for all your efforts.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more news and updates.